Hello and welcome to the Superposition Guys podcast. My name is Yuval, and my guest today is Aurelie Helouis, founder and CEO of InfinityQ Technologies, developer of an analog quantum computer. Aurelie and I talk about the types of problems that such a computer can solve, a unique application in the world of online gaming, and much more. We hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, Aurelie, and thank you very much for joining me today.
Hi, Yuval. How are you? And thank you so much for the invitation. I'm super happy to be here today.
My pleasure. So, who are you and what do you do?
Oh my God. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of InfinityQ, a company in quantum-inspired computing. And a little bit of my background, I was a naval aviation officer in the French Navy for 16 years in France. Had several responsibilities, especially on board the aircraft carrier, and I was in charge of the maintenance of the Rafale, the jet aircraft. So, very interesting journey, and I have the opportunity to travel all around the world. So, and then I had a degree in IT, and at some point, after becoming the CIO of the naval station, I moved to Montreal to do my MBA at McGill, and started working in a big company, Pratt and Whitney. And then at some point, I discovered my passion for entrepreneurship. And I quit my job and became an entrepreneur, and I'm an entrepreneur since.
Excellent. So, what is quantum inspired computing? What is the product that your company is developing?
That's a very good question. So, to um, get back from the early beginning, I was working at MILA, the AI Research Center here in Montreal, the research center of Yoshua Bengio. And I met a professor who rewrote a new formulation of quantum computing. And we were wondering if there are ways to obtain the same type of results, maybe not that revolutionary, but at least enough to provide a significant speed up and the ability to solve new problems without having the burden of building quantum computers, manipulating small particles, photons, or atoms, and building cryogenics, having all these complex materials and equipment. So we looked at quantum inspired technologies, and we found that developing an easing machine was a paradigm shift in computing and a good way to solve new types of problems, these NP-hard problems. And there was a possibility to use hardware such as FPGAs that we can configure ourselves to solve the easing model. So that's where the idea comes from.
Very good. So, what kind of problems can the icing machine solve? Could you give me perhaps a sense of that?
So the beauty of an easing machine is it can solve all these combinatorial optimization problems, and any NPR problem can be translated into an easing model. So combinatorial optimization problems are everywhere, especially in logistics. Everybody knows the famous traveling salesperson problems, or pathfinding, delivery optimization, these type of problems. And right now we are looking also at gaming, as I mentioned, the pathfinding and the interaction between non-playing characters for online games is something that is very interesting. So for us, it's a very interesting and also challenging moment, because we have to kind of use our technology to solve these problems and identify these problems in the real world. So yeah, that's the techno push problem, but I think it's very interesting because we have to open, to think a little bit out of the box and to think a little bit beyond, what exists.
How does the performance of the Icing machine compare to classical computers, or compares maybe to D-Wave machine, or basically any other approach to solving the same kind of problems?
That's a very good question. Actually, the performance are a bit better for these NP problems because unless you have problems such as the TSP, traveler and salesperson problem, that is very well studied, and you have specific algorithms. For the rest, if you don't have this specific algorithm, the classical computers are very bad at it. And compared to the others, we do our benchmark compared to the computer annihilers. So the performance are better when we increase into complexity. So that's we are still at the beginning, and we will publish a white paper by the end of the year to give more detail on that.
Do you feel that this approach is a short-term solution to solving optimization problems? What I mean by that is, in a few years, we expect quantum computers to be better, quieter, more qubits, and so on. Will there still be a need for an approach such as yours?
I think what is really interesting with our approach is the fact that it's easy to code. There is no extra work to create, quantum circuit so the simplicity is very important for customers, because at the end of the day, and I think sometimes when you love technology, you forget it, but customers want something easy to integrate, easy to use, and they don't want too much disruption. Otherwise, adoption won't happen. So what we think and what I think is, once customers will adopt our technology, there will be they will require a big revolution to change, and so I think we have some time before it happens.
And I assume you're selling a box, right? Is that a big box, a small box? Is that a cloud-hosted box? Is that something that someone would put on premise? How would you deploy it?
So right now, it's we developed a local cloud, so it's more on premise, and we are working with Amazon and Azure to provide access to the machine via their cloud. And the idea is to have our own cloud totally ready in 2023. So yeah, we have 3 approaches.
In what stage is the company? How many people do you have roughly? When will a product be released? What can you tell me about that?
So we incorporated in January 2020, so almost 2.5 years. We are around 10 people, so still a small team, but we already have a working prototype, working on POCs with different companies. So still early stage, but more in a growth phase.
When you listen to quantum computing vendors, the TSP, traveling salesperson problem, comes up very often. But I must admit that I haven't heard too many people speak about gaming. How did that application come about for your company?
So first, we were looking at different industry where our technology can be a good fit. So we did an analysis and kind of the SWOT analysis with opportunities, and we discovered that gaming can be a good fit, especially as I mentioned with online games, and it becomes more and more interesting, and I would say the future, especially after COVID, a lot of people became gamers, and also with metaverse, it opens a lot of opportunities. And I think what is great with gaming, they really need solutions. So they won't buy a consulting agreement to explain what can be done in 5 years, for example. They really want, a working solution to help them solve their problem today. So you can't really cheat with them. It's like either you provide something, either come back with the solution. And another good thing in Montreal, it's a great city for gaming. We have a lot of studios, a lot of big companies in gaming. So for us, it's also a good way to find talent and potential customers.
Let's see if I understood the application. So if you and I are gamers, then we have a character, and that character travels through, a virtual world. But then there are other non-paying characters, right? Crowd or other, villains or some of those. And they also need to move through the space. And today it sounds like their movements are not very realistic. And so you're saying that your machine would help figure out what's the best path for a non-paying character. Is that about right?
Exactly this, and also not only optimization of the path, but also the interaction, kind of optimization of their interaction, make interaction smarter. So that's what we are working on right now.
And that sounds like almost a real-time activity, right? I'm not going to wait 5 minutes to figure out how a character moves through a virtual universe. So is the machine built to provide very fast answers?
Yeah, that's our goal, and what we see also it's for the future. With metaverse, we will need more and more real time environments. So that's kind of the mindset we have right now, improving interaction, and at some point we will be able to apply that to the metaverse.
You spoke earlier about cloud and on-premise deployment. Is there any specific requirements for the machine? Does it need any special cooling or lots of electricity, anything in particular?
Oh, not at all. It's very easy. Right now, we developed the solution on FPGAs. So the beauty with FPGA is the hardware is off the shelf, but you configure everything yourself. So you customize your own hardware, and for us, it's a great opportunity. It's cheaper than building your own chip. But at some point we aim to build our own chip. So right now we develop FPGA solutions, and then at some point we will be able to have an ASIC. That's our timeline and our roadmap.
And going back to TSP, how many cities roughly can you solve today, and what do you expect to be able to solve in the near future?
So that's a good question. We have a new approach with a digital approach. We shifted to digital approach at the beginning of the year to ensure better scalability. So right now, I think we can solve around 100 cities, something like that. And we are, as I mentioned, we are working on bigger FPGAs to be able to scale more rapidly.
Tell me a little bit about the composition of your team. You said about 10 people. I assume they don't all need to be quantum scientists, or maybe even none of them are quantum scientists. How is the team made up?
So we have a professor from Polytechnique. It's a university here in Montreal, and so he's a professor in computing science. We have a couple of interns, actually with a background in software development, a cloud expert, a hardware expert with FPGA experience, couple of software, I mentioned already the software developers, and mathematicians. So actually, yeah, no quantum expert per se. We have a consultant who is a quantum expert, but the team itself is really more computer scientists.
And when you go to customers, do you basically say, look, you have these problems, classical computers are going to have a hard time solving them. You don't want to wait 5 years for quantum computers. Here's a solution that you could deploy in the near future. Would that roughly be the sales pitch?
Exactly. But as I mentioned, the good thing is we can explain what we can do, and then we listen to their problems, and then we fill the gap. We explain that the solution can solve part of their problem or all the problems, and then we work together to create the solution. So that's the approach we use right now to work on POCs, and also it helps to educate people because they are not very familiar with these combinatorial optimization problems, and they know their problems in the real world, but they don't know usually what the mathematical model is underneath. So we are there to help them.
Are you able to share anything about pricing? How is it per machine? Is it per shot or per thousands of shots? How does pricing work?
So right now for the pricing, we work with services. So it's more project-based pricing, but we aim to sell computing time, and at some point, once we develop the killer app, to sell the licensing to the software. So that's kind of the three approaches we have in mind.
Excellent. So how can people get in touch with you to learn more about your work?
So please contact me, send me an email at Aurelie at InfinityQ.tech, or contact me on LinkedIn, and I will be able to, I will be happy to contact you back, and we can discuss with the rest of the team.
Excellent. Aurelie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Yuval, for the conversation. It was very interesting, and I hope you enjoyed the chat.